Hello, everyone. Let us begin with the first session, that is, beginning with the end. For that, let's compare traditional planning versus backward planning. In the traditional planning, which we have been following till date, comprises of step 1 as identifying a chunk of content that needs to be covered. Step 2 to have a sequence of lessons to teach that content, and step 3 to create an assessment to measure the learning that should have taken place in these lessons. So far as backward designing is concerned, it is just the opposite. That is, one needs to begin with identifying what students should know and be able to do by the end of the learning cycle. Step 2 is to create an assessment to measure that learning. And step 3 is to plan a sequence of lessons that will prepare students to successfully complete the assessment. So the premise of backward design is that the planning starts by focusing on the required end result. That is, teachers shift their thinking from a content-focused design to a result-focused design. It allows the teachers to address what the students needs to learn and what data can be collected to show that the end goal has been achieved. Why is it done? Because by doing so, the teachers can integrate subject matter with the critical thinking activities and technology. When an instructor shares course planning, the students know what is expected of them. It brings greater coherence to the education of students, and they appreciate the inherent transparency. The alignment of learning objectives and assessment gives students clarity that enables them to build the skills and knowledge needed to accomplish necessary learning goals. So it eliminates unnecessary disruptions in the learning process. So, backward design requires 3 critical steps. 1. Identify desired results. That is what students should know and be able to do at the end of the course. These are nothing but learning objectives. 2. Must determine acceptable evidence that students have achieved these learning outcomes. These are nothing but formative, summative, and alternative assessments. That is, how will the students and the teacher know if there is learning? That is, how will students and teachers know if learning has taken place or not? And 3, then you design the instructional plan. That is, learning experience, instruction, and resources be planned that help the students be able to provide the evidence that they have met the learning objectives. So it is a very, very effective way of designing a course. If you do not currently think in terms of backward design, please consider applying it as you plan a single lesson plan or student assignment. It is worth implementing. For identifying desired results, the instructors must ask 3 questions. 1. What should participants hear, read, view, or explore? 2. What knowledge and skills the participants should master? And 3. What big ideas and important understandings participants must retain? The idea is to create a cross-curricular unit that provides students with meaningful learning opportunities, enhance their understanding of each topic, and the use of technology within both realms. In order to identify the evidence of learning, the instructor needs to consider the assessments and the performance tasks students will complete in order to demonstrate evidence of understanding. So here the teacher asks 2 questions. 1. How will I know if students have achieved the desired results? And 2. What will I accept as evidence of student understanding and proficiency. For that, one can take into account Bloom's taxonomy. So far as assessments are concerned, the first thing that comes into mind is to have formative assessments because these provide feedback to the students as well as instructor about how well the learning process is going on. The learning gaps can be closed by having class discussion or quizzes or peer evaluation or 1 minute writing and so on. Then is summative assessment. It provides evidence that students have achieved a learning outcome or gained a particular skill or knowledge throughout the course. It is in the form of final exams, projects, discussion forums, final presentations, and so on. Summative assessments are used always in conjunction with the formative assessments. But today, the need of the hour is to incorporate more and more alternative assessments. It's about getting students to show how much they have learned by executing tasks. That is, this method of evaluation measures students' level of proficiency in a subject as opposed to the student's level of knowledge. For that, for that, such learning opportunities be provided that require students to communicate effectively, engage in problem solving, collaborative virtually as collaborate virtually and face to face, apply critical thinking skills through project based learning, case based learning, concept mapping, writing for any publication, staging an exhibition, or write reflective pieces, or any other such activity which demonstrates their level of proficiency. While planning the learning activities, one must allow for flexible student participation, that is, whether students are attending in the classroom, remotely, or some combination. One must allow the students to think and reflect on what they are learning, must keep them actively engaged with the instructor, with the content, and each other. So, emphasis must be on three types of interactions: interaction that takes place between instructor and students, interactions that take place between student to student, and interactions that must take place between student to content. That is, how, what, and which has to be emphasized. There has to be a complete alignment between learning objectives, instructional activities, and assessment. So these three questions must be asked. 1. What do I want students to know how to do when they leave this course? 2. What kind of tasks will reveal whether students have achieved the learning objectives I have identified? And 3. What kind of activities in and out of class will reinforce my learning objectives and prepare students for assessment? If there is misalignment among the three, then obviously the objectives are not met. Suppose, for example, objective is to apply a particular concept, but the assessment is such that enables the learner to memorize it, then the objective is not achieved. Similarly, if the assessment is to compare two different approaches to explain a particular concept, but instructional strategy comprises of summarizing the different approaches, once again there is a misalignment and the learning objectives will never be met. So one has to be careful that learning objectives Instructional activities and assessment must align to each other. Thank you.